What's up, everybody? Welcome to IGN Game Scoop. I'm your host, Damon Hadfield. Joining me this week, Justin Davis,
Scoop,
Jared Petty,
hello,
Vincent Janito.
Let's do it.
We've got a great show for you this week. So much to talk about, so much to get through. First, some housekeeping notes. Next week is Gamescom.
Housekeeping.
In Germany. Vince and I are going.
We are.
I
can't wait.
Yeah.
My first time to Germany.
Oh, you're going to have a good time. Cologne is a fun city.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Yeah.
Justin and I are not going.
Yeah, for that reason.
It's fine.
No, it's totally fine. So we're going to see a lot of games. It's a big, loud show, and there's a bunch of conferences too. Microsoft has a conference.
EA.
Blizzard is doing a conference, EA.
Yep.
And then they also, 2K announced that they're going to be unveiling Mafia 3.
Ooh,
That's right. I'm
next week,
going to be there for that. I'm going to
Mafia
be
2,
checking that out.
underrated.
Yeah, I mean, when was Mafia 2?
It was
I don't
an
even
early
remember.
last
2010.
generation. Well, I guess not that early.
2010.
Yeah, 2010,
So,
I believe. Yeah.
so 5 years.
So do we have any hints yet about like setting or anything at all?
They had nothing official, but last spring, in spring of 2014, some voice casting notes leaked, which show that it could take place in Louisiana.
Oh, that would be amazing.
There'd be 3 main characters that they were casting for, and it could take place in Louisiana.
I'd love to see it thrown back like Mississippi Mud, Dixie Mafia days. I mean, that would just be absolutely amazing. Because there's a real life, like a true crime story there that's so fantastic that it's almost unbelievable, and it would make it a wonderful video game.
Isn't that kind of like what Justified explored?
Justified is kind of that East Kentucky thing. The Dixie Mafia end on this was a little more like assassinations in lawmakers' houses and this like rampant small town drug trade in Mississippi. It's a little different culture. Kentucky's kind of its own little world. I love Justified.
Yeah.
But Kentucky is Kentucky. It's not the South. It's not the North. It's Kentucky.
Okay.
Whereupon what you're going to get in Louisiana is going to be decidedly Southern, and I'd really like to see what you get out of that.
Yeah, so we'll see. I guess we'll find out very soon if Mafia 3 is indeed in Louisiana. So you liked Mafia 2.
Yeah, it's great.
The complaint that I see most of all is that it's this big open world with just nothing going on, nothing there. You're just driving through empty streets.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I found it really atmospheric. The game changes seasons, and it's at its strongest when it's winter. I felt like there's a specific scene. I don't know how scripted it is or how real or fake it is. With an open world game, it's hard to tell what's pulling the strings behind the scenes, but you're walking up a street, like walking up this kind of side street alley, and there's Christmas music playing on the radio, and the snow's lightly falling, and you can see like tire tracks from when cars went by, and there's pedestrians doing things like looking out windows and shouting and waving, and it was just like amazing. Like it's just this amazing moment. I really, really liked that game world and the setting a lot, and I was invested in the story. Yeah, I think that's probably a fair complaint about the open world. It's an open world, but it's not so much of a sandbox where it's like, we're going to turn you loose on the world and go crazy.
Sure.
It's not that kind of open world game.
But the nice thing about sequels is that they've all read the criticisms and reviews and are, fairly likely to address those when the next one comes out.
Yeah.
They've had 5 years to work on it. So.
I'm not totally convinced that if there was just dots all over the map to go and now climb this friggin' water tower to unlock a new portion of Louisiana, it's not...
Exactly.
It doesn't seem like that kind of game.
That's what I was going to say, is that I resist the notion that the purpose of an open world is just to give people a bunch of activities to do at their leisure. I feel like there's absolutely something to be said for creating an open world just for the sake of atmosphere. Like you can get carried away with that if you've got a massive, massive world and there's literally you're just wandering around kind of aimlessly without a sense of why or where or without anything to do. That can be a little bit much, but there are definitely moments like, for instance, LA Confidential. LA Confidential. Not a coincidence that I said there. LA Noir, a movie that feels very much like LA Confidential. A game that feels very much like the movie LA Confidential. Yeah, like that. There wasn't a lot to do in like the open-ish parts of the world in LA Noir, but like I cherished every drive that I took from point A to point B, even though the driving wasn't that great. Just because of the look and feel, and how it made me feel about the context it gave for the rest of the game.
Sure. Blizzard is also I think Blizzard is having 2 presentations next week. One is for everything not World of Warcraft, so I think they'll talk about the next Hearthstone expansion.
Yeah, timing should be right for that. We might probably get a release date.
Yeah, that'd be great. Anything about StarCraft or Diablo that we would expect?
Timing could be right for both of those. There's rumors of a reveal of a new Diablo expansion. I mean, the short answer is we don't know. It's all kind of speculation, but the timing's right for more Legacy of the Void info. Timing's right for maybe Diablo expansion news.
They famously take their time, so we could be just about anything. They never seem to be in any hurry to produce a new product.
They get a lot of stuff kicking around. I mean, Blizzard has more products in active development now than probably ever in the company's history, because we could easily get Overwatch news.
That would be exciting.
We could easily get, some Heroes of the Storm hero reveal. There's any number of directions that they could take it.
And then there's a separate presentation just for World of Warcraft where they are going to announce the next expansion.
Yes.
We don't know what that is. There's been rumors. I forget. There's a rumored name for the expansion.
Yeah, the one. Well, I don't know what one you're thinking of. There's one that's been bouncing around for a while that was proven false, and I can't even recall the name of it yet either.
After
Journalism.
After the world of pandas, I'm just hoping for like a hedgehog continent. If we could have that, I'd be very good.
Hedgehogaria?
Porcupinea, I think.
Porcupinea.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah. Perils of Porcupinea. That's the new expansion. You heard it here first.
Warlords of Draenor
Short for pop.
was not received incredibly well.
So that came out late last year.
Yeah.
And then
They're turning around expansion faster.
Then this quarter, the first quarter of this year, saw the biggest drop in paying subscribers for World of Warcraft ever.
The funny
Dropped down
thing
to
is,
7.1 million.
I heard someone, I can't take credit for this observation, I saw it on Reddit earlier today, but it rung really true to me, that Warlords of Draenor launched really strong and everyone thought it was great, but then once they sort of dug into it and reached max level, they sort of realized there wasn't a lot under the hood in the expansion, whereas Mists of Pandaria had the opposite effect. It launched and everyone was very so-so on it, and they're kind of like, I don't know about this new continent, I don't know about this new class, but then once they dug into it, there's actually a huge amount of content for every single type of player and play style, like whatever type of WoW player you were, Mists gave you something to do. And Warlords kind of flipped that on its head to the detriment of the overall WoW experience.
When did WoW launch? I don't.
Well, I played it in 2003, but I believe that was still beta testing.
Yeah, I wanted to say 2004.
I think the official launch was 2004.
So we're talking 11 years of official launch since the official launch. It's absolutely amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's longer than almost every console life cycle, with a couple of exceptions.
They've been saying for as long as WoW's been around, Blizzard's been saying we're going to start turning expansions around faster, and then every expansion. This time we really mean it. We're going to shorten that time period up, and we're not going to get expansions out every 2 years or 2+ years. You know, they want to be on that faster expansion cycle, and if we are going to indeed get the expansion news, it sounds like they're finally figuring out a way to execute on that.
And then Sony is not having a press conference this time at Gamescom. They're saving it for Paris Games Week this year. But Microsoft will be there, and they'll be showing 3 big games that were absent from E3. Those include Scalebound, Quantum Break, and Crackdown.
Woohoo! Crackdown! I love Crackdown. I thoroughly enjoy that game. I think that in some ways, Crackdown is the best GTA game ever made. I really like the original, that open world with all of
the original Crackdown is
Yeah.
the best GTA game ever made?
Well, Chinatown Wars is the best, but the original Crackdown is...
Okay, well, so this will further my thinking. Chinatown Wars is better than Vice City?
I like Chinatown Wars more than Vice City. I really do. It's that drug dealing minigame. Like I just could not stop. It's like playing Elite on the streets of GTA. Now I love GTA games. I adore them. I really do. But I think Chinatown Wars is something special. I also love how you stop the star level by wrecking the police cars. It's a wonderful mechanic. I love how they lovingly rendered Liberty City. I mean, GTA 5 is awesome. It's an amazing open world. But I really do love, I love the uniqueness of Chinatown Wars, and I love the simplicity of Crackdown. It strips it all down. It's just like, I wish I had that guy walking around with me all the time just like, it's bagel day at work, agent. Pick one up. You know, it's wonderful. You can
It was bagel day at work today.
Yeah. You can approach every problem from 100 different angles. That game is just wide open. My favorite video game of all time is Sid Meier's Pirates. And one of the reasons I love it is because you can approach that game. It is the sandboxiest of sandboxes. You can just go after any problem from about any angle. Crackdown is like that. And if this new Crackdown carries on that spirit from the original, I am just one agility orb away from leaping through this the ceiling. It's incredible.
Crackdown was really good. Crackdown 2, candidate for most disappointing sequel.
Yeah, and I think and the main reason for that being that I think that Crackdown had literally 0 expectations placed against it because it was just a pack-in bonus.
That game was people paying $60 for the Halo 3 multiplayer.
It was
and then
packed
finding
in with the
oh, this is actually really good, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's what I think it was. I think all of us got it for different reasons. And then we got it expecting we were going to get a terrible game. And then it wasn't terrible. And so we were like, when you expect terrible and you get not terrible, this is amazing. And then when you expect amazing and you get
I played a lot of Crackdown. It's one of the first games I remember spending a lot of time just dicking around. Like I didn't do that in the older GTA games. I just didn't. Crackdown was the first one where I'm like, I'm going to intentionally try to ramp my truck onto the top of this vehicle and just stuff like that. I suspect that if I were to go back and play that game today, like I remember the shooting not feeling that great.
Nope.
And I remember the grenades feeling kind of broken. Like I wonder how fun that game would be to go back to and play today. But I really liked it at the time.
I went back to it fairly recently, and maybe this is just like fan sentimentality, but I still had a ball. I started from the beginning again and dived back in. I was like, this is still fun. I was amazed by it. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did.
Stealth candidate for best superhero game.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, great pick.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I guess that would be better than Saints Row.
Spider-Man 2 is pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, so you can expect coverage of all these games on IGN next week. We're also going to be live streaming from the show Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think the local times will be starting at 6 a.m. Pacific.
Set your alarms,
pretty early
everybody.
for those of you on the West Coast, but 9 a.m. on the East Coast. When you come into work, set your coffee down on your desk, launch IGN.com, watch the live show from Gamescom.
Your boss comes over, slap him across the face.
Yeah.
Don't you know that Gamescom's going on?
Just invite him to sit down with you. So you can sit side by side and watch it together.
Or work here, and
then it's
literally
fine.
Or just work here and it's your job.
I'm sure many people would be willing to.
Call in sick.
Yep.
Or just
also
just quit.
Just quit.
Yeah.
Then you can just
quit your job.
All the time in the world to watch.
What are you even doing? You don't even like that place anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Switching gears to
Fine.
It's fine. It'll be fine.
a game that was big at Gamescom last year, Rise of the Tomb Raider. Last year at Gamescom was when it was announced that Rise of the Tomb Raider was an Xbox exclusive. And there was all this mystery shrouding that announcement. Like, is it exclusive forever? Is it a timed exclusive? No one will say for sure.
Yeah.
Now we finally know definitively it is a timed exclusive, and we know the time frame. It comes to PC, so first of all, it comes to Xbox One this fall, November 10th. Same day as Fallout 4. Thanks for that, guys.
I still expect that to change.
Flinch?
Yeah, flinch.
I feel like somebody's going to blink here, and it's not going to be
Not gonna be
Fallout.
It's coming to PC then early 2016. So you can, sometime between January and March, I would expect it then. And then holiday 2016 for PS4.
Yeah, 1 year later on PS4.
It'll be Rise of the Tomb Raider, the definitive edition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really will, yeah. I mean, that's the I have an Xbox One, and I'm not necessarily like a graphics whore. I played Dragon Age on it, thought it looked and played great. I don't multiplayer games. I'll play them on any platform, just whatever I happen to get my hands on. But the only reason I might be willing to wait for Tomb Raider is because I don't want to have to rebuy it to play the definitive edition, to get the version that has everything included. So I don't know. That gives me a little bit of pause.
Do you guys care about the new Tomb Raider? I mean, how do you feel about it?
Oh, very much. I was a huge fan of the last one.
I thought their E3, the section that they showed at the press conference was a little bit. I don't think they did the game. I think they did it kind of a disservice by what they showed off. They released an extended trailer that you can see on their YouTube channel. I think we published it on IGN too. That sort of continues after that big glacier set piece ends. And then it's the open world Tomb Raider. Like, she's trying to stealth around dudes and sort of throwing a gas can to distract them. And she fights a bear. And she, does the whole...
they showed some of the new stuff rather than their stage presentation was just more like...
Well, the stage presentation was very Uncharted, scripty, climbing, press X, QuickTime events, which I guess is flashy and you only have however many seconds you have on stage. But... seeing that extended demo put any of my fears to rest, I'm like, this is, more of what we got a couple years ago. It was my game of the year a couple years ago when it came out. I really, really liked it. I think the changes that they have made are smart. I'm incredibly excited. I think that team's really talented.
Why is it not called Tomb Raider Bear Fighter?
Tomb Raider Bear Fighter.
Seems like an oversight.
Because it would be so easy to change it to Tomb Raider Bear, B-A-R-E Fighter.
Ah, that's a good point, yeah.
That's
right.
the only reason.
And you
That's
remember,
the reason.
Or you can keep Bear Fighter, and then it could have a different connotation altogether.
Right.
Yeah, except the nude code is a myth. It's not real, Vince.
there was
no nude code.
There was a Nude Raider mod back in the day. There was a Nude Raider mod. I remember that.
Mod,
yeah.
I like, maybe that'll be like they do, so the core games are Tomb Raider, and then the spin-offs are Lara Croft. Like they did Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be Lara Croft Bear Fighter.
Or Lara Croft. I'm good with that. Although that's still going to place you in the same conundrum for mods, I think.
Well,
There was a copy of Nude Raider on my Spanish classroom PC in 1997, I think, if I remember right. That somebody had
Someone should have reported you
I didn't put it on there.
to...
Oh, I did not do that.
the cyber police.
Yeah.
I did not do that. Nope. But I remember it was on there.
I love that was like a myth in the 90s, like that there's a Tomb Raider nude code out there somewhere. Someone knows the code. If you find it, you can... They just come off. The clothes just fly off.
The wishful thinking of teenage boys.
All right, so we'll also be seeing Rise of the Tomb Raider next week at Gamescom. Have some more updates then. Switching gears to Nintendo. Some good news for Nintendo.
Yeah.
They finally reached 10 million Wii U sold, and they are turned a profit, I think a 10 billion yen profit.
How many dollars is that? So can you buy a Subway sandwich?
That's about 10 million.
$67 million.
Is that what they said?
Yeah,
okay, that's right, because the yen is weak now. That's right.
Yeah.
It used to be strong, now it's weak.
So that's good. Even though sales are down, they're slow. They're up. Sales of the console are up in Japan, but it's down everywhere else in the world. But they finally managed to cross that landmark, 10 million units sold.
Still going to undoubtedly be the worst selling Nintendo home console ever.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
Once you count the Virtual Boy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that a home console though?
That's what I'm saying. It's on the line.
Yeah, that's right on the line there.
Sure,
But
that's fair.
They killed that thing in like 6 months too. I mean, they
bad.
really actually tried with the Wii U, which I was surprised by in a way. Nintendo tends to kill the children that don't perform well immediately, but they really did give the Wii U a go. And maybe it's because they didn't have anything left in the back pocket.
Or maybe because they just wanted to get to a point where they turned a profit on it.
Yeah, maybe that's it. But now they're making money again, so yay!
Yeah.
And that's great. That's great news. When Nintendo prospers, I'm happy because I like Nintendo games.
3DS sales are up.
Yep.
And they say Amiibo sales are favorable, but they're still not providing actual sales numbers on how much Amiibo have been sold.
Yeah, I mean, the Wii U, I don't know. I like my Wii U. I don't know what there is left to say about it. I don't know. Like, they insist that Zelda's still coming out for the Wii U. I remain skeptical.
I'm super stoked for Mario Maker, though.
That's true.
Super Mario Maker.
Super Mario
And that's
Maker.
out in September.
That is one of the most exciting video games for me in a very long time.
Yep.
I cannot wait to play that.
We found out, I saw a headline that was Mario Maker will support 99 Amiibo. And in my head, I'm like, no, the headline of that story is there are 99 Amiibo.
Don't you have all of them?
Not anymore.
Oh, okay.
I'm out.
You're
You see,
just-
did you hear like the tremor in his voice?
Yeah, no. I got out of the game.
Okay.
Have you moved on? Do you have like a substitute drug, a withdrawal drug to help or anything?
Yeah, I mean, well, everybody's got to spend their money on something.
Right.
Yep.
I've been buying board games again lately.
Ah, there we go.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, totally.
I got
Use the board game.
I got the Marvel Legendary. I bought into that. I bought a game called Splendor. That's a lot of fun. Love Letter.
Splendor.
Love
Oh, I
Letter's
love
so
Love
fun.
Love Letter's so
Keep diving
great.
into Love Letter.
Yeah,
Love Letter's
Love Letter's
fun.
great. It's a wonderful like, hey, you got 10 minutes, let's play some
Board
more.
game
Board game scoop.
Board game scoop.
I would
Game
love
Scoop.
to do board game scoops.
We can do that one day.
I've been saying for years that when I finally just take off all my clothes and quit this job, say I'm out, because that's how you quit a job.
Yep.
You quit
Take off your
naked
clothes?
first.
Yeah, exactly.
When that day finally happens, I want to start like a board game, something like podcast,
Yeah.
or show, or website.
Well, as a little look behind the scenes, we tried to pilot a board game show years ago, and we shot multiple pilots where we played the Gears of War board game.
Yeah.
I think we played a whole game twice with Ryan Clements.
Yeah, that was old school.
And neither of those worked. And then I filmed you and Clements playing
Android Netrunner?
Yeah,
is that
Netrunner,
true?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then that didn't work either.
That I literally didn't
We've
even
shot multiple pilots of us playing board games for a
Dana,
show, and
did
it
you
didn't
know we
work.
just shot a pilot last week?
No,
And then we're trying again.
The fourth time's the charm.
As a matter of fact, right now in the
Yeah.
studio, they are filming a board game
That's
show.
why I'm not. Yeah, if you don't see me on that episode, I was in the first pilot, but I had to miss this one for Scoop.
Yep, then they're working.
Either way.
Priorities. I mean, come on.
Right. Either way, you should get back to Android Netrunner.
Yeah, I know. No, I mean, sure, I know this isn't board game Scoop, but I do want to, like, if people aren't aware, the board game scene is like a legit thing now.
Yeah.
Like, there's hot games that come out in all kinds
yeah.
of different genres and themes, and
It's more than just Scrabble.
yeah, games that are very mechanically light versus games that are very mechanically heavy, different running times, co-op, competitive. I mean, the scene is really, really cool and interesting and very fun, and it's a hobby that you can drop a lot of money on or find things that are pretty inexpensive. I'm really, really into board games these days, and that makes me so happy to see it percolating out to the masses and seeing it be a thing that a lot of people are into.
I'd love this for Board Game Scoop to just be the two of you facing each other across this table playing chess while doing Game Scoop. I think that would work. Just like kind of sit like two old men in a park.
You a good chess player?
Am I a good chess player? No, I'm too aggressive.
Oh, all right. Well, okay,
Yeah.
then we can play then.
I typically,
you guys play Go?
I overextend myself. No.
Go? I haven't
Go?
played.
No,
I haven't played Go.
Oh, let's play Go. I'll teach you. It's fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not any good, but I love it.
Damon.
All right, bringing it back to the video. game realm.
Those kinds of games.
Did you guys notice that PS Plus lineup for next month is?
I didn't see it. I didn't see the news.
Oof! Listen to this. This is what you're getting. You're a PS Plus subscriber.
I am.
Yep.
Here's what you're getting.
I'm gonna close my eyes.
Here we go.
Next month. Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris. Limbo.
Nice.
Sound Shapes.
Whoa.
Stealth Inc. 2.
Wow.
Yeah. And those are all for PS4.
Wait a minute. Whoa.
There's 2 more though too.
Stealth Inc.
2.
2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must have. I feel terrible about this.
We gave it an 8.5.
I must have missed when it. No, I know that. I must have missed when it came to Sony platforms because Stealth Inc. original was on Sony platforms. Stealth Inc. 2 debuted on Wii U.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware that it had made its.
But sometimes for PS Plus, they're free from day one. So maybe it's.
So maybe it's launch.
Yeah. Maybe it's
launching. I love that franchise. That franchise is completely. That was one of my last reviews as a freelancer for IGN before I came on full time. It's still one of the highest scores I've ever given out. I think like everything about that game, from the art design to the atmosphere and the mechanics and the way the puzzles are organized and laid out, is just totally masterful.
Yeah.
If you have not played Stealth Inc., the original, or as it was known on PC, Stealth Bastard. Definitely.
This is a family show, Vince.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Is that true?
I mean,
Ostensibly, yes.
I just like to imagine like a mother, a father, and 3 children sitting in front of their television
Do you remember that
sets
time we
with
got a
popcorn.
letter? We got a letter from the mom or dad of a little boy who I think was 6. It's like he loves to watch you guys every
it was
week
really young.
and talk about video games. And then in my head, I'm like picturing all the things I've said. And I'm like, and like even that episode was maybe like a little bit dicey.
Yeah. It's like, we apologize for the nude raider discussion if you're our family.
all right, so Stealth Inc. 2 sounds like it should be very cool. And then I'm stoked. I haven't played Limbo in 2 or 3 years, so I'll totally play that again. I missed Temple of Osiris because it came out in December last year, and I was playing Far Cry 4, so look forward to playing that.
There's 2 more, aren't there, as well?
And there's also Sound Shapes, which is great.
Right.
And then for PS3 and Vita is Castle Storm Complete Edition.
Oh, awesome.
And then for PS3 is God of War Ascension.
Oh, okay.
Which is a full-fledged God of War game that came out a couple years ago.
That's a groovy month right there.
It
sure is, yeah. So.
Castle Storm is another kind of underrated sleeper.
From Zen Studios, the makers of Zen Pinball.
Yep, that's right. And it's very solid. It's got a mix of there's some tower defense elements. There's some some base construction elements, physics-based elements.
It almost feels like if Rampart had become a franchise and it were like Rampart 5, it would be Castle Storm.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
It's like Swords and Soldiers. So
that stuff makes
2D,
me think of,
2D sending troops out to overwhelm the other. But then there's also the mechanic where you're firing, arrows and spears and boulders at the enemy castle and trying to bring it down.
And then that castle is like deforming it's all physics based how it deforms, and you build your castle with different rooms, and the idea is like the more different rooms I have, the more different units and abilities I have access to, but maybe it's not as structurally, sound as something that has fewer options, but a little more armor and a little more meaty. So it's interesting dynamic to that game.
Yeah, it's a cool game. Man, you mentioned Rampart though.
Yeah.
What would a modern day Rampart be like?
Castle Storm.
Castle Storm, but I don't know. Rampart. Do you enjoy Rampart?
I like Rampart.
Yeah, if you haven't played it, a 3-player simultaneous trackball, like screw with your friends, but help your friends kind of game. You're constantly moving between competition and collaborating. It's wonderful.
It's round based,
right?
And so you have to build defenses in between rounds and then launch. Launch
you're
attack.
Scrambling to build defenses, and then you're scrambling to defend yourself, and you're scrambling to screw your friends over. And it's just wonderful. That game would be ripe for a return. Nobody would care about the name, but that design, I can't think of another game that's ever quite approached like that kind of competitive co-op multiplayer the way Rampart did. I think that would be a wonderful.
You just have to rename it as something that make people buy it, like War Killer.
War Killer,
3D.
I played War Killer 3D.
Deathblood.
But it's a wonderful game. So a modern day Rampart would probably be, I don't know, maybe a corridor-based third-person shooter where you stomp on heads.
That doesn't. That's nope.
You're making me sad now.
Eject.
Keep going.
Damon's out.
All right, moving on. Good news for fans of JRPGs this week. Dragon Quest XI was announced. This guy's excited. I don't know how many. It seemed to fly. I didn't see a lot of the IGN community talking about this game this week. Now, to be fair, it has not been confirmed to be coming to the West.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why.
That's some of it.
But what I think is interesting is that this game is coming to PlayStation 4 and 3DS.
Yeah, that makes so much sense for Square Enix, but
they
it
have to
doesn't
make
make a lot of
two
sense to
games,
us.
right?
I don't know.
These
I
are
don't know if
very,
they do.
very different.
So Dragon Quest games are, generally speaking, not particularly taxing to the hardware.
Well, they also, a big part of what they'll spend their time on is the scenario and characters and writing and plot and all that will carry. Like, sure, they have to make two games in the sense that they're not going to have gorgeous HD graphics on the 3DS and hopefully, presumably, will on the PS4. But there's still a lot of, it maybe makes some sense. There's maybe more overlap there in their production than you might think at first.
Well, for the worldwide market, PS4 makes a lot of sense for them. And for the domestic market, 3DS makes a lot of sense for them. Dragon Quest games are the second coming of the Lord in Japan when they happen. I mean, they are big deals for the most part.
With the first coming being Monster Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, that may be true. That's a good point.
The third coming is just the Lord.
Yeah, it's just the Lord. But yeah, Dragon Quest games are huge in Japan.
Bigger than Jesus.
There was always that myth for us that the release of a certain Dragon Quest game prompted the enactment of a law preventing the release of video games on school days.
Yeah, that was
so many kids missed. Which is actually not true.
Yeah, a lot of kids skipped school, but the law never got made. That was for Dragon Quest III, which is where the series really blew up in Japan. It took a lot. It's never really caught on in America. The Dragon Quest games have sold.
People liked
pretty well.
8 did okay, and 5 finally came here, and 5 is the best. But I don't think it sold all that well. Actually, 8 did okay.
I don't think Dragon Quest has ever sold particularly well here in the U.S. You know, this is the 11th one, and it goes all the way back to the NES. And Nintendo actually published it themselves, and they gave it a big push in Nintendo Power. But I think it was just a little bit before Final Fantasy. And Final Fantasy has just always seemed a little bit more, I don't know, a little more advanced a little bit.
You compare Final Fantasy to Dragon Quest 1, and it's not even close. Final Fantasy is a far more sophisticated game than Dragon Quest 1. Now, the version of Dragon Quest 1 we got in America, which is called Dragon Warrior, was actually very good compared to the Japanese one, which was kind of janky and kludgy. And it was actually Satoru Iwata who went in and polished it up for America and made it much better game.
They did a lot of polishing because in the Japanese original, your character always faces down no matter which direction he's walking.
Yeah, I think there's a menu. I actually think there's a menu-based command to rotate him, but I can't remember for sure. I have played this. It's been a while. It's just awful. It's really a terrible game. Its re-release version in America is quite good, and I do want to pimp this game for a minute. Dragon Quest V is one of the best JRPGs. It's an absolute must-play. It's a slow burn. It begins playing like any other Dragon Quest game. You're kind of like, well, this is kind of fun. It's turn-based and simple, and that thing rolls out into a bona fide epic. That's a wonderful video game. Please play it. Sorry, that's my
all right then.
You know what game I liked?
What's that?
I like that Rocket Slime.
Oh, I love Rocket Slime! It's so good!
I like the ship-to-ship.
I love this slime behind us. That makes me very happy.
So happy.
Yeah.
My wife and I moved to Japan, and for like the first 2 weeks we were there, I'm like, honey, we're in Japan for the first time ever. She says, go away, I'm playing Rocket Slime.
Yeah.
That was what was going on for a while.
Rocket Slime is really good.
Yeah.
4 Dragon Quest games, they were called Dragon Warrior at the time, came to the NES.
Yep.
And the box art is all so similar. It's just like the same guy fighting a dragon in different positions. I think if you
4 is totally solid, by the way. That's a game well worth playing.
By then they were like, so Dragon Quest, the series turns 30 next year.
Wow.
It's one of the, can you believe that this series is run by the same people today as it was in 1986.
Unbelievable.
The same game designer, the same artist, same composer. It's insane.
On Japanese TV, every channel is pretty much a different variety show all the time. They're either cooking or doing a variety show, and you will constantly hear 2 video game themes. One is Super Mario Brothers, and the other is the Dragon Quest March. It's on every channel all the time. It just permeates the culture there. You draw a slime or a Draki or one of the other iconic monsters, and every kid in every class recognizes it, but so do 45-year-old people walking by. It's just it's almost as important as something like Mario or Pokemon. It's really cool.
Do you guys know this? I bet Jared knows this. Do you know why they changed the name to Dragon Warrior for its Western release?
There was a conflict. There was already a Dragon Quest, right?
There was a pen and paper RPG called Dragon Quest, one word intercapped.
Yeah.
At the time. And then the rights eventually went to Wizards of the Coast, but they didn't renew their trademark. So in 2003, Square Enix filed for
They said, bam!
Dragon Quest now.
And they're like, Dragon Quest now, we can switch it. And that
but
worked.
I forget, even Dragon Quest 8 was released as Dragon Warrior 8.
Was it?
I thought it was
I'm
sorry, because it was after. That was the first
Yeah, it was
one.
much later.
I thought 7 was still Dragon Warrior.
7 was.
But I don't think
7 was Dragon Quest 7.
Was 7 actually
wasn't it?
released here?
Yeah, it was.
So weren't there a couple that
It
weren't
was the
released?
PlayStation one. Yeah, 5
7
and
was,
6
the
were not
PlayStation
released here
was.
for a long time.
And
5 and
then
6 were
5,
skipped.
okay.
They're both worth playing. 5 is the best.
7 was boring as
Yeah,
hell.
well, 7 is kind of like Final Fantasy 9. It's very like metatextual. If you grew up playing all the Dragon Quest games
Yeah,
in
but don't,
Japan, you
because
love
like
it.
Final Fantasy 9 is an incredible game.
I like Dragon Quest 7. All right, and then 6 is good. 9 is excellent because 9 is pretty much like somebody made an Ultima game. They completely threw away a lot of the stuff you were used to from Dragon Quest, and they just sort of created like a brand new Ultima game, but with Dragon Quest art and creatures, Toriyama stuff. It's wonderful. It's like a Western RPG with a JRPG flavor, and it's great.
My
Yeah.
big memory of Dragon Warrior, the original Dragon Warrior, is that it was the first time when they featured it in an issue of Nintendo Power, and it was the first time I'd ever seen the words role playing.
I remember
game.
that issue. They had to like
They
teach people what a role playing
It was a whole
game was.
paragraph intro,
Yeah.
or 2 paragraphs. It was basically a page explaining.
Yeah.
This is what a role-playing game is, and Dragon Warrior is your role-playing game.
Right.
You know, and a little part of a new like if anyone seen Inside Out recently,
Yeah.
like a new island.
Yeah.
RPG Island just came into being in little Vince's brain.
It's
And
such.
you went, this lines up with my interests.
such
You're going to attack, and then you're going to pause, and then they're going to attack you, and then you're going to go on a quest and open a treasure. And
Well, it's such a brilliant iteration on Ultima and Wizardry. You know, they took these computer RPGs and said, how do we make this work on this limited interface with these buttons and this controller and the limited amount of memory we have? And the solutions they came up with, there really is just a pretty brilliant game, the original Dragon Quest, despite its flaws. And we really do owe the console RPG legacy largely to that. They're just like Ultima and Wizardry and a few other things like Black Onyx in Japan were really popular, and they just found it this perfect adaptation. So well done.
So I guess I don't even know. Did Dragon Quest X come out here?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Dragon Quest X ever came. Well, it was so that was kind of MMO-ish.
Yeah,
that was the MMO one.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever released it.
No, I don't think it ever came here.
They released it in Japan though.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Dragon Quest XI has not been confirmed to come to the West yet. But, so I don't know what's going on with that series.
I
in the
strongly
West.
suspect that one will come here because I don't think they're planning a massive multiplayer setup.
Yeah.
And some of that was the platform for that. There's a lot of reasons that fell where it did.
All right, moving on. This guy's played Angry Birds 2.
I did. I know you're all dying to hear about it.
I mean, I have enjoyed playing Angry Birds games in the past.
That's already it's the butt of a lot of jokes, but I do think a lot of people that core sort of flinging it feels really good, and I've also really respected the Angry Birds franchise for being more of like a puzzle game than I think people give it credit for. Like if you really try to get 3 stars, you need to do some specific stuff in the levels and figure out what that is.
I thought Angry Birds Star Wars was very, very good.
Star Wars was maybe the peak. I really liked I liked everything about that game. Yeah, so Angry Birds 2, it's coming out. By the time you watch this, it will already be out and live. Let's start with some of the bad, some of the not so good.
All right.
It's a free game, it's a free download, and it's moving to a live space system like probably most commonly found in Candy Crush Saga. So
Live basis?
yeah, so if you fail a level, you lose a life, and then you get that life back in 30 minutes, and you have 5 lives total. So if you fail a level 5 times, you gotta wait 2.5 hours to play more. Or you can spend, $1, whatever it is, to get to refill your lives. So
Real quick, I thought it was 10. Is it 5?
I mean, I don't have the game yet. Like I just played it some. There's some. I think it's 5.
Okay.
But either way, like again, part of the game was you could fling and exactly figure out how to master a level, and they kind of took that away from you unless you want to spend money. So that doesn't necessarily feel so great. You also have like power-ups that are basically kind of auto-win buttons, but you can buy those with the premium gems as well. If you're ever stuck, you can rain birds down from the sky.
I want that power in real life.
Yeah, no kidding. Undoubtedly disappointing. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It doesn't feel good to not be able to play the game whenever you want.
All right then.
But the good.
Yeah.
Like now we can get on to some of the good. The game is legitimately really good looking. It's running at 60 frames per second. So, I mean, it sounds silly, but seeing the destruction, like it's very, very fluid and impressive watching, you know, the TNT explode and all the physics happen in real time. The irony is this game's being made by Rovio's Swedish studio, who a lot of them, there's not a lot of game development in Sweden, so there are a lot of DICE EA, former DICE EA employees. So they worked on like Battlefield 3. And so they went from, you know, Levolutions in that game to like Angry Birds Levolutions now, which I think is kind of funny. No, the good is if the old games were more puzzle based, where it was really sort of precise, or you had to like whip it around a planet in a specific way to get 3 stars in Angry Birds space. Now it's a little bit more arcadey. So you have you have like a book of birds, or like a deck of cards that are your birds, and you get dealt a different set every time. So you don't know what 3 or 4 birds you're going to have. And then each level is multiple parts now. So if you're in 1-1, it'll be like destroy this stage, and then a second stage, and then a third stage. And so you kind of have to ration your birds a little bit. Like you might have a powerful bomb bird, but if you burn them on the first stage, then you might get to the third one, and then suddenly you're left with your weak birds. So there is a balancing act between sort of, okay, I have these 8 birds total, I have to get through 5 stages. Do I use my sort of weak, boring red bird now to try to get through the stage and save my stronger ones for later? That element of it felt really good, but the randomness of it means that sometimes it might be out of your hands if you don't do a great job. You might just need to restart and hope to get a better starting set of birds.
And when you restart like that, you are costing yourself
and then you cost yourself a life. I don't necessarily like people are going to bellyache about the lives thing, and that's a totally legitimate complaint. But for me, Angry Birds is like a snack anyway.
Yes.
So, like, that's never bothered me that much in mobile games, like energy systems that refill over time or any of that. Like, I'm playing a game for 20 minutes at a stretch and putting it down anyway.
See, this is a bigger problem for me because I dive into Angry Birds and just like play.
I played Angry Birds Star Wars for just hours and hours on end.
It's got an endless mode, so it's got an arena where every day it's a new daily challenge where it's never-ending sort of semi-procedurally generated stages where you have your finite number of birds and then you make it through as many of those stages as you can, and then you're competing against your friends for high scores. It's a new set of stages every day. So that's kind of rad.
All right.
My problem with the time-based life system is that it should just be an option. There should also be an option for me to pay $10 and just have everything, and just have the game. Like the fact that I can't just buy that's what bugs me.
I would pay $20 for Angry Birds.
I mean, if it was good,
but I'm not going to load a game that I know is going to sit there and just beg me to send it money.
Because then it's like an arcade machine in your phone or device or whatever.
And if I have an arcade, that people really like arcade machines.
Yes, but you can set them to free play in your own house after you buy them.
If I buy an arcade cabinet, I don't have to keep putting money into it.
We played Rampage this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we put $1 into it and played for 15 minutes. And that was it.
Had fun.
Yeah.
Ate some people.
You do meet a lot of people in Rampage. Yeah.
I was so confused because
did you use the good old trick of like climbing right to the top of the building and then just holding like diagonally down and just punch.
Yeah. So as you climb up, you punch the building that's behind you.
Right.
Punch up, and then when you're up to the top, punch.
You know how to do it. I love the jerk move you can pull in Rampage where you see one of your friends dying and you can just hover over them and grab them and eat them right before they regenerate. It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
It accomplishes nothing at all mechanically, but it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
So I do, to sum it up, I think mechanically, the actual, when you're in the level fleeing the birds, I think it feels better. It looks really good. It feels really good, very polished. How much that metagame element of lives recharging does sort of mess with the look and feel, we need to spend more time with it to determine some of that.
Cool.
All right, let's check in with the listeners.
Hey, listeners.
Hey, listeners.
Greetings, listeners.
Listeners, remember you can always reach us at the email address gamescoop@ign.com, just like Chris did from Saskatoon.
Saskatoon.
Where's that?
Good old Saskatoon.
Sounds like, is it Canada?
Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Maybe?
I'm guessing Burma. Well, you may know it as Burma, but it'll always be, Myanmar. Now it's Myanmar, but it'll always be Burma to me. That's a Petermanism, right? Yeah.
Anyway, he has a great question, a big question, but also a straight and to the point question. What is the golden age of video games?
Oh, this is so good.
This one, huh?
This
one. Well,
I would.
So there have been some great It depends on how long you consider an age.
Can I say this first of all?
Please.
A golden age is defined as a period in a field of endeavor when great tasks were accomplished. So with that in mind, what is the golden age of video games?
I mean, it's crazy, right? Because you can anyone can make a totally valid argument for almost any of the eras.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'll say this. I feel like things are a little bit dicier when we're just getting started with a big transition in technology. Like the PS1 and 64 era is when I'd played video games my whole life, but that was when I'm like, this is gonna be my life.
Yeah.
I love this hobby, but there's no denying that in hindsight, like those games are really blocky and clunky. And then it was the next generation, the second generation of 3D, where like incredible feats were achieved.
Yeah.
And I would make the same argument for the 8-bit era.
Yeah, it's important not to let nostalgia and your beloved childhood memories determine what is the golden age.
My earliest memories of video games are with the NES, but I don't think those games aged as well as the SNES and Genesis games. So for me, the golden age is roughly 1990 to 95. That 16-bit.
That 16-bit era.
Super Mario World, Link to the Past,
Super Metroid,
which is my favorite game of all time. And the speed of stuff like Sonic, even though that gameplay didn't hold up. I'd never experienced anything like that at that time. Final Fantasy VI, all those RPGs, Chrono Trigger, you can go on and on and on and on.
To counterpoint that, I think everything you're saying here is absolutely valid. However, one of the virtues of 8-bit games and first-generation 3D games is raw experimentation. They are much rougher around the edges, and some of them are harder to go back to, but people are always trying new things. They were inventing new things constantly, and that's one of the things I love about that age. So I'm going to, you didn't give us a window of time, so I'm going to say about 1989, 90 to about 2000. From the end of the NES era, when you got the
decade.
Yeah, the peak of the NES era, when you get the best, most polished NES games coming out, when they'd really mastered the sucker, and they were doing all kinds of neat stuff, and you still had, and I can cheat. I can still go to the store in 1990 and buy Bionic Commando, which was made a couple of years before. So that's okay. But I can go and grab things from the end of that 8-bit era, and then all the way through the beautiful SNES polish era, into the PlayStation when the optical media made things cheap and when development was much easier than it was during the assembly language era, and people could try all kinds of crazy stuff and release it for $40. And finally, I get to hook on the very end of that and get the Dreamcast, which was one of the best 18-month gaming experiments ever. So from I'd say pretty much everything, maybe I'm going to push it up to the late 80s and get Mega Man 2 and Bionic Commando in there. And
you're getting pretty greedy.
I am getting
with your golden age.
Okay, I am getting pretty greedy. Well, but think about, so the history of video games is what, 1972, 3, some of that up to now, that's what, a 40-some year window. So
you're trying to cover.
I'm thinking a quarter of it.
Yeah, a quarter of all the video game history is the
Now, I asked you about this before the show, and you said it was okay.
I'm not. I said it.
Whatever.
There are no bars held.
Yeah.
It's whatever you think. I'm just saying.
I like the experimental nature of that age.
There is something to be said for optical media and games coming on CD really letting people go kind of crazy.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of digital distribution at the time, so now we're seeing that again, where you can release whatever you want. If it sells 500 copies, but you made it in your basement, fine. And that was like the precursor to that. You would get weird PS1 games. For the first time ever, a game didn't need to sell, a tremendous number of copies to make its money back from the cart that was printed. So, just like, I don't know, stuff like Parappa the Rapper or Intelligent Cube, or I don't even know.
Bushido Blade or Einhander, or, there's just all kinds of crazy things came out during that period.
I love that Square Enix released a 2D shoot-'em-up on consoles
that's still
at retail.
That's still
really
That's one of the best shooters of all time.
And then you also, in that period, you get the Sega Saturn era. That thing was a Frankensteinian monstrosity, but it had so many good games on it. And then you get all that wonderful weirdness for the weird consoles that popped up and died in that period, but all of them had 2 or 3 really interesting gems on them. You had things like Return Fire or the Tempest remake for the Jaguar. These are really good games too.
And it's possibly the last golden age of importing too.
Yeah, and then on top of that, golden age, there's an amazing golden age. Yeah, such a good point.
So absolutely. Vince, what's your...
what would you say is the golden age of video games?
No, actually, Jared stole my thunder. I was going to say like 90 to 2000. Like that to me is the... like you said, you're getting the last few great NES games trickling in. That's the entirety of the 16-bit era, which to me is like pound for pound. That's the greatest. That is the greatest console generation. Is the 16-bit era.
Yeah.
It is the best versions of all the classic franchises that started in the 80s. And then you also have N64 had some revelatory titles, which, what we said, haven't all necessarily aged wonderfully. And then like late mid and the late 90s, some of the stuff that came out on PS1 was just next level revelatory stuff, like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Metal Gear Solid, stuff like Final Fantasy VII.
Also,
massive achievements.
Also, we're completely ignoring PCs here. That era for PCs was the golden age. I don't think there's any question there. This is the era of Civ and Civ 2 and Doom and Quake, and I mean this is when PCs ruled the universe. Half-Life,
Baldur's Gate sneaks in.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the great Apex RPGs released during that period. Yeah, it's so good.
All right, so you're all sort of like in the era. You said like the first half of the 90s, and then both of you tend to agree it's that whole decade. Let me put this out there. I think maybe the last generation, the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Wii generation, because that was the first time in a long time I was seeing new big AAA games that were taking video games to new places, doing things I had never seen before. In that generation, we get Mass Effect, BioShock, Portal, Mario Galaxy, Uncharted 2, the Arkham games, Skyrim, Fallout 3, Red Dead Redemption, The Last of Us, Rock Band, and Guitar Hero. All this amazing AAA stuff. And then you also, in that generation, saw the rise of indie games, and alongside that we're playing Limbo and Super Meat Boy and Pac-Man Championship Edition DX, Braid, Walking Dead, Trials, Mark of the Ninja, Geometry Wars, Fez, Peggle, Joe Danger.
Yeah.
Then there's also the Wii doing something totally different and creating this entire new demographic of gamers, more casual gamers, introducing motion controls, and that same period saw the rise of mobile gaming and on iPhones and Android devices, which was like, that was a very exciting time. There's a different way to interact with games, new input, all sorts of new ideas they're playing with.
You convinced me.
So yeah, just think about all that.
No, that's an amazing era.
I think unfortunately that might be over, because now today there's no more mid-tier game level, fewer AAA games, and now most releases are big, are indie game releases. And there's no more Wii. There's no more of that casual market. It's gone. The Wii U is a failure. And then mobile gaming the well has kind of been poisoned by free to play.
Yeah, so. I think that it's an extraordinarily valid point. I would not argue against you on that. It was a ridiculously rich era for innovation in games, and I think especially when XBLA changed the world. I mean, it just from Braid on, from our world. Yeah, it changed. It put things into people's hands. A kind of game that seemed to be completely dead. It was a pretty wonderful thing. But yeah, you listed off some extraordinary evolutions on ideas that were planted in that classic era. So I have no argument against that.
I think my issue with last generation, everything you said is super true, right? It's an incredible generation, and I've talked before on Gamescoop about that combination of small and large both being able to grow and thrive is really fun and powerful. But it was the start. We saw the kernel of things that are creating problems for us today.
The horse armor.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That generation brought us horse armor.
That's a really good point too.
And that's just the continuation of. I mean, games have always
annualized games.
Yeah, I don't have any illusions about video games not being about making money in the 80s and 90s. Obviously, they were, but I feel like we have the tail wagging the dog now in terms of okay, let's have a 10-year plan for monetizing our product, and let's try to get the revenue per user as high as we can, and the purity of gameplay of just let's make a really great product, and then people want to spend $40 or $50 or $60 for it is gone.
Yeah,
I don't think it's probably ever coming back. Early access is kind of okay, but even that's kind of troublesome now in a lot of ways.
No, that's a lot of valid arguments. Also, to go into an old horse I like to beat. When you bought a console between 1990 and 2000, you're reasonably assured that it would work.
That's another
whereupon during that last generation, how many Xboxes survived from those dark days?
Yeah,
I mean, it was ridiculous.
Oh, I thought you were going in the direction of just console updates and hard software.
I was going there. That was coming next.
I had two or three of my Xboxes I had to send back and have.
Yeah, Red Ring of Death, but also just sitting there and be like, time for a PS3 update.
It's such a joke. It's such a joke, but it's not a joke. It was like 9 p.m. one evening, and I'm like, I'm going to play Arkham Knight. And I'm like, nope, I just can't play video games tonight. And that's part of why I actually play a lot on iPad now, because I pick up You Must Build a Boat while I'm waiting my Xbox One to update, and I'm like, well, this is really fun. So
Yeah, I'm following this little project right now. There's a group of guys that have gotten together to create a kind of a hobbyist home game platform that's going to be designed to be written for largely, I think, that kind of assembly language construction.
It's not called UI, is it?
No, it's not. Okay. No, this is not meant to be a mass market product. It's very much a boutique thing. But the idea is to create like a locked platform for hobbyists to make small market games.
Sure.
I'm really interested in that kind of little boutique niche to see. That will never be a big thing. The boutique niche.
Justin and I may have discussed something similar in the past.
Anyway, oh, really? Is this Playdia all over again?
No. So Damon, I ran the numbers on these console updates, and if this trend continues, we'll be spending 1,000 hours a day updating our consoles in the next decade.
1,000 hours a day. Yeah. See, that's surprising. I didn't even realize that there were that many hours in a day.
If the line continues in the direction that it's going,
1,000 hours a day.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, so those are all really good points.
I think the main thing, my takeaway is that right now, I don't think that creatively or in terms of quality, we're in any worse of a place now than we were last generation. Yeah. I think the big thing is we're beginning to see the seed that was planted grow into this tangle of vines that's threatening to start strangling creativity. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there's still time for us to. I think what needs to happen is
it's the suits, man.
It's the man. Like, but I think once it's going to take some time. It's going to take diligence on the part of game fans and consumers voting properly with their dollars, and it's going to take some forward-thinking executives to think about what's the right thing for the future and the long-term growth of the industry, and hence their paycheck. But I think once we figure out the way to do business in a way that's good for developers, that's good for retailers, that's good for consumers, and that's good for developers and publishers, I think once that all gets figured out, I think it's going to be another golden age for sure. How long that'll take, I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. I like to read old books, and it's fun. You read them, and they'll start talking about like the good old days of games in old books about games. It's great. You go back, you're like, you go into an arcade between 1980 and 84. You'd have thought that was the golden age of video games.
You can make an argument for the early 80s being the golden age.
I mean, an arcade in those 5 years would have just been the most amazing place in the world.
I think there is a pretty clear golden age for arcade games being the early 80s. I think that's pretty cool. But viewers and listeners, what do you think is the golden age of video games? If you're watching this video, let us know in the comments. If you're listening to the podcast, email us at gamescoop@ign.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Can people watching the video email you?
Yeah, sure, they can do that too. And then the people listening can also go to the video and comment on it.
That's awesome!
Crazy!
It's freaking amazing.
Before we go, we got to play Video Game 20 Questions.
Let's do it. Here we go. Let's do it.
Right. Video Game 20 Questions, and our suggestion this week comes from Irvin.
I'm so bad at this game.
From Fort Pierce, Florida. So, gentlemen, you may start your guessing. Your questioning.
We'll go down the line.
We know what the first question is.
Does the game come out before January 1st, 2000?
Yes.
All right, so it's, what do you think, by platform?
Sure.
Okay. Is it a Sega platform game?
Nope.
Is it a Nintendo platform game?
Nope.
Is it a Sony game?
Nope.
PC, probably?
Probably PC.
Most likely. There are other options, but probably PC. So is it a PC platform game?
Nope.
Okay, so...
Well, all right, wait.
All right, so it's not Nintendo, Sega, Sony, so it could be 3DO, it could be...
Mac?
It could be Mac, it could be a TurboGrafx game. It could be an NEC Hudson game.
Yeah, it could be a TurboGrafx.
It could be an Atari game.
Okay.
It could be Atari. We're going back. We could be going way back here.
That's true. Okay, I'm trying to think about the smartest way to narrow this down.
I think the smartest way would be maybe to ask if it's no, because
it almost certainly means it's from an American. On a platform made by an American company?
Well, unless it's NEC.
Should we maybe ask if this was on consoles at all?
Well, we said PC.
So it's probably, if it's not a PC, I mean, Mac is the only other...
Right, so I feel like if we ask that question, though, we can eliminate the idea of whether or not it's one of these smaller consoles that we don't usually get stuck with, or if it was maybe an arcade game. I mean, there's no rule saying it can't be an arcade game.
Okay, was this an arcade game?
Yes.
Well done, Vince.
Good, Vince.
Excellent, bravo.
Do you play as a human?
No.
Is this game an environmental cabinet?
I don't understand the
question. An environmental cabinet is a cabinet that has a wraparound structure, something that you get into,
inside
or
the
you
game?
stand on or get into.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
That would include like Hang On or something like it's a
No.
okay.
I want to point out that you don't play as a human.
You don't play as a human,
Right.
Okay.
You don't play
You're
as a
not a human. You're not a human being.
Was this game tied to some kind of a entertainment license?
No, it was not original. When the game was released, it was an original work.
When it was
okay.
released, it was
That's
an
good to
original
know.
work, so it created.
I wanna
So it rules out like Turtles in Time and like
maybe Era.
Yeah, I want to get.
Yeah.
Was this released in the 80s?
Yes.
Okay, it's
That's
released,
10.
Okay, it's 10. It's released in the 1980s. We could talk about genre.
Are you a human in Centipede?
You are holding. Technically, you're holding a magic wand, but you are a magic wand in Centipede. Technically.
Are you a human in Space Invaders?
No, you're a little ship.
Well,
You're a little ship.
that's kind of getting abstract, right? You could be a human inside
You're
that
a ship. You're a ship
You're
in
a ship.
space.
Right,
I think it's fair. Maybe genre. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or yeah, sure.
Is it a single screen game?
Yes.
Okay, that's important.
Okay.
So no scrolling.
I'm maybe gonna get a little bit crazy here. Do you eat things?
No.
Okay, so that actually
Do
eliminates
you-
a lot of single screen games.
Do
Good
you
question.
shoot things?
No.
Oh,
don't?
you
That-
don't
that
shoot
eliminates
things
a lot.
or eat things?
Single screen, you
Neither
don't
do
eat
you.
or shoot anything.
That's all you did in the 80s was shoot things or eat things.
Okay, you don't eat. You don't shoot.
ate and shot
It's in the 80s. Is this between 80 and 84?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good.
Okay, so we're classic era. You're not eating. You're not shooting.
Yeah, but
There's-
that eliminates
there's a ton-
Robotron.
Yeah,
There's so
Robotron's
many.
gone.
You're not a human.
It'll-
Jungle
Iris
Iris is
Hunt.
gone.
Gosh, it's single screen.
Did the company that make this game? Sorry, it's Vince's turn.
No, it's okay. We're free
Oh,
from here.
I might know what this
The
is.
company that made this game, are they still in business?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
I might know what this is, but I have an idea.
What do you
say
think
it
it
out
might
loud.
be?
You can
Tell
say
us
it
what
out
you
loud.
think about
That's
Okay,
it.
in
so
a
I'm
sidebar.
running down like the row of like maybe like a Cubert type thing, like one of those. Let's ask about controls because that's great for our kids. Is it a joystick-driven game?
Yes.
Okay,
Cubert's
so
a good guess.
that cuts a lot of things out.
Does the hero have a filthy mouth?
There's so many games from this era that fit this criterion, though.
Cubert never eats,
Cubert does not eat. He lands on a ball, but he doesn't eat it.
and you don't play as a human. Cubert's totally a good guess.
Yeah.
What's a way that you can
But-
narrow it
so-
down that might not
we know
be
it's a
just Cubert?
Oh, there's so many other things this
The
could
other
be.
one- the other
I mean,
one
think
I'm
about like
thinking of-
Donkey Kong. You don't, oh no, you're a human in Donkey Kong. That doesn't work. What's that?
Right, I was thinking of Crystal Castles.
Yeah, Crystal Castles with well, no, that's not a
that's too
joystick.
late.
There was a
Oh,
joystick.
right,
yeah.
right, it's a rollerball.
Right, it's a roll, yeah, it's a trackball game.
Does
Yeah.
the game star what we would consider like a cute mascot type character?
Yes.
That's
Okay,
Cubert.
okay, Cubert's a good guess.
Ask if he's got
Wait. There's a way to do this without. Does the game take place on a diagonal axis?
Yes.
Okay.
All
There we go.
right.
All right. I think we
Is the
got it.
game Cubert?
Zach, is the game Cubert?
Yes.
The game is Cubert.
Yeah.
We did it.
My
Well
first
done.
video game.
Oh yeah,
That
that's
was
right.
your
That's
first video
first
game?
On the TI-99 4A.
That's a good port.
Yep.
That's a
Yep.
good port of Cuber.
Yep.
Nicely done.
We did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
we did.
Zach got, or Vince got you on the right track, getting you on the arcade.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
that was
track.
really good.
That's
We could
right.
have burned a bunch
Yeah.
of questions on
And I
that.
think it's good asking for narrow it down to the early '80s, and then the single screen question is really, really.
Yeah, that was a really
Yeah,
good
that's
question.
Single
Yeah.
screen, no eating was really good too.
Yeah, that was a great question.
No eating, no shooting.
Yeah, and not human was very important. Or we
Not
could have been.
human.
I've been running
Yeah.
like Jungle Hunt or something at that
Yeah.
point. Like, oh, that's
Yeah,
thank you.
good suggestion, Irvin.
Yeah, that was a fun game. I'm still mad at myself about Beyond Oasis. It's like weeks later.
Oh yeah. No, you gotta let it go. All right, that's all the scoops we have for this week. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Vince. My name is Damon. Remember, you can always reach us at the email address gamescoop@ign.com. This is IGN Gamescoop, and we're out.